Hello, my name is Matthias, and welcome to the Game Week 1 edition of the FPL Scope podcast. And we're back with another season. This is our first podcast for the new season, so we have a lot to talk about as well. But before we get to talk about Fantasy Premier League and all the good stuff that is this season, let me just introduce Kevin. Hello, Kevin. How are you doing? How excited are you for next season? How are you doing?
Oh my God. Are you trying to just talk over me now? Is
Yes.
that what this has come
Yes.
to? Fair enough.
I've got a higher rank than you last season, so
Oh my
I'm
God.
in
Okay.
charge.
Well, either way, long time listener, first time host for the season. So very happy to be here. I think I'm super excited, just generally speaking, about having club football back. It's been a weird summer in regards to football and transfers and all this type of stuff. So I'm finally happy to see just a platform for all these players to show what they got again. And yeah, I mean, it's not the start of the season without Everton getting threatened with points deduction. So let's go.
Yeah. Pretty excited as well for Haaland, Salah, everyone back. All that type of stuff is back. And the one first thing we got to talk about as well, which is kind of old news at this point, because this is launch news, and launch was a month ago now. But there are new rules that we haven't discussed on the podcast. First of all, we can go through the major point, which is the fact that you can save up 5 transfers now, and it also carries over through the wildcards and the free hits. So you can save up 5 transfers without doing like you do. Yeah, anyway, everyone knows the rules already, but you get to keep the 5 transfers after your wildcard as well, which is a huge difference from the previous seasons. And we know also now that there's going to be less blanks and double game weeks than we have before, because I don't think the quarterfinals of the FA Cup cause any blank game weeks anymore. But yeah, what do you think about the rule change with especially the 5 transfers and stuff? Do you like it? Do you not like it? What was your initial reaction? Has that changed over the course of the last month? Like, what do you think about the new rules in general?
I mean, I generally speaking think that some of the additions have been fun, especially the fact that a foul one is actually worth something now, even though it used to just be like I feel like it's just a Mandela effect thing where you just thought it led to bonus points. So for me, that being something is really fun because there are some players um, for teams that I don't even support, but because they're my FPL team, it becomes interesting to see how these players get fouled and hacked and stuff like that. I think Bukayo Saka is one of the more obvious ones that I can think of, just because everyone, especially Cucurella, would love to hack him. So I think stuff like that is fun. Uh, but like we were talking about this before the podcast about goal line clearances being worth 3 bonus points, considering it barely happens anyways. It's kind of that one kind of felt pointless. And I also
Three
think that's
three BPS should be noted, not bonus points, but
yeah, sorry.
the
Yeah.
BPS system that counts towards the bonus
Yeah.
points. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's also a bit um I don't know, like I feel like conceding a goal shouldn't be minus that much. I also think that the decrease in the penalty saving shouldn't be a thing either, because like you should I feel like goalkeepers should be rewarded for doing it because it's not often goalies save pens,
They
in
do
my
get 5
opinion.
points though on top of that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, sure, but I think it's notable that when they do make a save like that. So I'm not. I feel like they've added and subtracted in certain places where it was perfectly fine as it was, and then added a bit too much in other places. So I'm all for it. I think it will make it more interesting going forward, and um, I think just generally speaking, I mean, I hate the fucking mystery chip, and I've already ruined our curse, our curse streak by cursing like what 4 minutes into our podcast. But I, I I don't like stuff like that. It feels very gimmicky, and they should be telling us so we can plan around it. But I guess everyone's in the same footing, so I guess it makes somewhat sense, and hopefully it's something fun. But generally speaking, I think I enjoyed the shakeup, especially with the price changes as well, especially Haaland being 15 million, really making him stand out as a premium asset. Um, so yeah, it'll be interesting because it's going to be Haaland versus no Haaland this year, which will be even
Hmm.
more fun because last year it felt a little bit like a gamble when people did it, and then it did come to be costly depending on which match Haaland wasn't injured in. But this year, especially, you know, knock on wood, hopefully he doesn't have any injuries. It'll be interesting to see if it actually works out for players going forward.
Yeah. So you answered basically every single question that I would have for you now, but you didn't answer the question that I actually asked you, which was, what do you think about the 5 transfers and the carry through the wildcard and stuff?
I mean, the 5 transfers thing, I told you back then I thought it was a bit lame. But I don't hate it. I think it allows some players who are conservative and all this type of stuff to be more conservative in that regards, rather than like myself. I'd be someone who would minus a lot. Instead, I can now be a bit more conservative. So I guess in that regards, sure, it's a fun little addition, but at the same time, I do like the classic, save up two, and then if you don't use it the next week, you still have two sort of thing. I mean, five's a lot, and after wildcard is could be game breaking depending on, if there's very obvious wildcard opportunities and hoarding and this type of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Also, I wonder, are you going to save up 5 transfers at any point, you think, or do you think you won't be that patient?
I will game week or wildcard game week too, so I can't say for certain. No, but I would like to do it just to say that I did. And if I did, that means my team is excellent. So yeah.
Yeah. My prediction is, well, maybe if you set a goal to do it at one point, but I don't think you're gonna save up 5 points or 5 transfers. From what I know of you as a FPL manager, I don't think you would have the patience over 5 weeks to save up that many transfers. But we'll see. You've surprised me before. Maybe you'll surprise me again.
Yep.
But personally, I think it's a great addition to the game. I think it opens up everything else more. Like, everyone will be on a different path. Like in game week 8, I could have 5 transfers and you can have 1 transfer, and that's going to change the entire landscape of the whole thing. So I think it opens up more different kinds of players. It opens different kinds of paths to go through each season. Because usually, like the past few seasons, especially with the introduction of like AI teams and stuff, and a bunch of content creators basically making the same team as each other. I feel like they needed to do something to refresh everything and get different kinds of teams. And one of those things is the pricing, like you said. Really like the price changes in general. Haaland being 15 million, Salah being 12.5 makes it a difficult choice whether you go with both, whether you go with one or the other. So I think that's pretty interesting as well to see what's going to happen in the future. It seems like at the start it seemed like Haaland was kind of less popular than, well, obviously less than popular than last season when he was like 90% owned. But it seemed like most people were going with just Salah and no Haaland, but now it seems like it has sort of shifted a bit. At one point it was both, but now it seems like it's Haaland mostly, and then people have started downgrading Salah to Jota, for example, because Jota looked really good in this past preseason game. And it's hard to know what's going to happen with Arne Slot as well as the new manager, and how that affects Salah and Jota and all those guys in the Liverpool attack. So yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. As far as the bonus points changes go, I think, like you said, there are probably some pluses and minuses there, but I think in general, I like it. I like the fact that if you concede 5 goals as a defender, you're not going to get bonus points just because you had an assist offensively. Like I kind of like that. So I think it will be, you have to look more into the best defenses rather than going for potential goal scorers and defense. I think that will count quite a lot as a defender. Also, the thing I didn't mention was the fact that it's a really small change, because it usually never really happens, but goalkeepers now, at least, they don't get as many BPS from saving penalties, but they do get more points if they score a goal. So if you have a goalkeeper that scores a goal, you get 10 points now rather than the 6 points that you got from before. I think that's kind of fun, but it's basically just a gimmick because it rarely happens, if ever. It's just the Alisson thing. We had like 5 goalkeeper goals in Premier League history or something. I don't know. Could you name some of them? I know Schmeichel scored one. Brad Friedel had one.
Yeah,
Paul Robinson had
obviously
one.
Tim Howard had one.
Tim Howard had one. Alisson had one. Yeah, it's a very rare occurrence, but would be fun if it happened this season. And especially we saw in the Community Shield, you were there actually at the stadium. You saw Ederson take a penalty for Man City. Imagine if he becomes the penalty taker or gets the chance to take a penalty at some point. He would actually turn into like a proper goalkeeper asset. Finally. Yeah. Would you pick him if he was? Obviously, I think everyone would pick him if he was the penalty taker. And because Man City usually gets like 8 to 10 penalties each season as well, but it's not really looking likely because they have several other penalty takers in front of him, I guess. So, yeah, that would be kind of interesting.
I would 100% have him. As someone who had but the former Bayern München goalkeeper in UCL Fantasy in this one match because Neuer was confirmed out and pretty much all the strikers were out. There was like a joke going around saying that he'd take a penalty if it came to it. And he did. So, yeah, you know what? Screw it. If it's like, if Ederson starts taking penalties because he can't stop missing, I'd 100% have him in my team just because it's 10 points just like that.
Yeah.
You would, everyone would probably bend over backwards to get him, even though they're going to concede 1 goal in the 90th minute because that's classic City.
That is classic City. And that's why Ederson for now has just been a troll basically each season. And personally, I don't really see the appeal with 5.5 goalkeepers because they usually just get the same amount of points as the regular goalkeepers. But maybe that's one of the reasons that they have the bonus points changed now, that you get less BPS bonus points if you concede a lot of goals. Like if you have like 9 saves, but then you still concede 5 goals, you're probably not going to get bonus now, which wasn't the case before. So it's more about keeping a clean sheet now. So maybe that will benefit the goalkeepers that are more premium, that keep more clean sheets. I don't know. We'll get to see. I think like people haven't really talked enough about the bonus changes because I think it's going to change. I mean, it's still only 3 bonus points in the end, but I think it's going to change some stuff that we haven't really accounted for as of yet. But we'll see what happens later on in the season. But let's move on to the first segment that we have today, basically, and that is the match predictions for Game Week 1. Finally, we're going to have some matches. Friday already, we have Man United against Fulham. Then we have several matches on Saturday, 2 matches on Sunday, and then the final match between Leicester and Spurs on Monday. So yeah, like we did last season, basically, let's go through each and every game and just talk a little bit about each one. Starting with the Friday game, the opening game of the season, Man United against Fulham, and I've gone with a 2-2 result here, actually. I'm kind of surprised that I did. I thought I gave Man United 2-1, but I think I changed my mind right at the end just because I have slightly more belief in Fulham than I should have, probably, because I've considered a lot of those Fulham players in my team because of the good fixtures that they have. Yeah, I got my 2-2, but I really wanted or had like an inclination of going with Man United 2-1 win like you did. But I don't know. I haven't really been sold on Man United being a good team either. We'll see what happens with them. They have a lot of issues. They don't really have a striker currently. Højlund is injured. Xerxes hasn't played a single minute in preseason. But still, I have them scoring 2 goals because I think it's going to be pretty easy to score against Fulham now with Palhinha gone. So, yeah, interesting game for me. 2-2 I've gone with. You're going with 2-1 in this game. How do you see this game playing out?
I think, I mean, not to sound like as a scout or something, but I was at the game against City, and from what I saw from Man United, it was super encouraging to the point where if you look at clear-cut chances, both teams created a lot, but I felt that Man United made the clear-cut chances. Rashford hit the post. Diallo tried to square it instead of just shooting it on target, because if he had shot, goalkeeper was in no man's land. Like, he would have probably scored, but he tried to square it very cheekily, so the player who was running with him just wasn't aware that he'd passed, so it just became like a nothing ball. And stuff like that made me quite impressed with what I saw. I understand it's a preseason friendly and stuff, but it's still some stakes in regards to it being a recognized trophy or whatever, but it's still the Manchester Derby, and you want to get the win. And I was very impressed with what I saw. Yes, it looked a little bit shaky, but both of these teams didn't have their strongest 11s, and we're going to see more strong 11s play uh, on the Friday for Man United. And I think with the strongest 11 and with Bruno being Bruno, I think they're going to etch away with a win. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it ended a draw. I came very close to actually putting 2-2 myself, but
Mm.
I just have belief that Man United will see it across the line. I think summer wise, Man United fans are sort of up and down. Some are really happy with what they've done. So others are like, we've completely screwed things up and haven't replaced anything. But I, everything that I've seen of both like Amad Diallo, what I've seen of Rashford, Bruno especially very much impressed me with some of his passing, and he scored an offside goal that was just absolutely beautiful. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of these players are up for it. I think um, Fulham got the last laugh last year, if I remember correctly. I felt like they got a result at
Yeah.
Old Trafford last year.
I feel
So
like they got one each. I feel like Man United beat Fulham in the end in the first game,
maybe,
maybe. And
maybe,
then the
maybe that
second
was
game,
the
Fulham
dramatic.
turned it the other way.
Yeah.
I just have a feeling that I've seen that. But yeah, you might be right.
But I feel like yeah, I felt like it was like Iwobi did something, but that's Everton love for him. But essentially, I just think Man United have to sort of win. It's like
Yeah.
a feel good result if Fulham do it, but Man United have to win, and I think that's why we'll see them win.
Yeah, there's a good chance that they will. I tried to figure out the results, but couldn't really. But yeah, I think so. That like we are pretty much in agreement here. We feel like it's going to be a tight game, and yeah, the reason that I almost went with 2-1 Man United is because it feels like they did that every time last season. They had like their worst season ever almost in terms of points. I think, at least since the Ferguson era. But they still got a lot of results going their way in terms of scoring late and beating teams 2-1 and 1-0, even though they didn't really deserve it. So could easily see that happen again, but I do have some faith in Fulham offensively. I think they looked pretty good in preseason. Smith Rowe is in there. He's looking good. Muniz, I have a lot of faith in. Anthony Robinson, the left back, has been really good for several seasons now, and it seems like he's going to be even more offensive this season. So all those three guys that I just mentioned have been in my fantasy drafts at some points, and they still might make it, all three of them, maybe even at the same time, because Fulham has some pretty good fixtures, as we'll get to pretty soon. Ipswich against Liverpool, this seems pretty straightforward. It seems like Liverpool always get a newly promoted team in the first game week, and usually that means that Mohamed Salah scores a lot of points in the first game week. And with both of us going 3 Liverpool goals, I have 3-0 Liverpool, you have 3-1 Liverpool. I think we can expect some nice points for Salah and the other Liverpool attackers in that game. So yeah, it's just a simple game, I guess. Newly promoted team against Liverpool. What do you make of Arne Slot's debut in the Premier League as well? That's going to be the major talking point, I guess, for that game.
Yeah, I mean, I made his or um, I mean, I'm revealing a little bit of the magic here, but I did write the Arne Slot manager review, so very aware of what he can do and what he's capable of. And I think this is the perfect squad for him in terms of being able to play his brand of football. So I think Liverpool made an excellent choice in picking him, and I think he made an excellent choice in picking Liverpool. I think it's a very worthy club successor. I could say this and he gets fired in 6 months, fair enough. But I think in terms of stylistic choice and sort of all those things, this is a perfect move for both club and manager. And I think we're going to see them cook. Unfortunately, as it pains me to say as a Evertonian, but as someone who watches football and keeps track of it, I think this is gonna be a nice big show, and why a lot of us are going to be captaining Salah or Salah adjacent in that game.
Yeah. And I think also the last 2 clubs that Jurgen Klopp has left, they've actually done better in the season after he left than the season that he had prior. But obviously with Dortmund, they had an awful season with him in the final season. So that had to be the case, basically. And Mainz, I don't really know what happened there. But do you know which 2 managers took over from Klopp and did better than him the following season? A bit of trivia here. One of them you should get, Dortmund. but
Yeah, it's Tuchel.
yeah, the Mainz. There's another one.
Wasn't that also Tuchel?
Tuchel also took over Mainz, I think, but I think there's another. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure, but I heard this statistic or this fact or trivia, I guess. The other one is actually, or maybe it wasn't Mainz, maybe it was a different club. I think it might. I don't know. Jørn Andersen, apparently, a Norwegian former striker. He actually used to play for Vålerenga as well. He was the top scorer in the Norwegian league way back when. But he's really weird. I think he's been like the head coach of North Korea and stuff before as well. Really strange. But I think he actually was the successor of Klopp way back in the day and did better than Klopp. If I'm not mistaken, I gotta double check that as well. But I just heard that trivia back when Klopp decided to hang up the boots, I guess. But yeah, I'm pretty interested to see what happens with the Liverpool as well, Arne Slot, and how that affects the whole squad. Salah's going to be really interesting. We're going to talk more about him, I'm sure, in this podcast as well. Arsenal against Wolves. Again, we're pretty much in agreement. It's the same here, except the opposite. I have 3-1, Arsenal conceding, which is kind of strange that I am predicting because I do have an Arsenal defender in my team currently. And you have 3-0 for Arsenal, a clean sheet for the best defense in the league from last season. Beating Wolves, who looked really good last season, but then again, they've lost Pedro Neto, but he was injured for quite a while last season as well, so maybe they can still cope without him. I don't know. But Arsenal away is a really tough task anyway, and I don't think we can judge Wolverhampton based off of this fixture, especially with how they are looking currently. They sold Max Kilman as well, haven't really replaced him either. There are some question marks about Wolverhampton, and I think they have some signings to do, even though they got, what's his name again, Mosquera back from on loan, who is looking set to play as a centre-back. But yeah, Arsenal, I think it should be a pretty easy match for them. 3-1 I have, 3-0 you have. What do you reckon from this game? And Arsenal as well. Do you think they can do it this time and actually win the league? Do you? No?
You want my God honest truth. And I'm saying this as someone who realizes that one of our biggest fans of the show is a massive Arsenal fan.
Not just one of, 3 of.
Yeah.
Hey. You know who we are. Oh. So you don't think so?
I think they haven't. I think they've dug deep and gone some nice signings in, but it's not enough. I'm sorry. I just don't think it's enough. I think I'm finally starting to get bored of Guardiola because now he's broken some stuff. I'm back on the City hate train because Guardiola is my guy. Barcelona, I always love him. I love him. I love him. I even took a zoomed in picture and I said, "You beautiful bald bastard." Like, I love Guardiola, don't get me wrong. But I still, for whatever reason, just because of Haaland, I mean, the guy's won back-to-back golden boots, you know.
It's anti-Norwegian sort of thing here, I feel like.
Why is that anti-Norwegian?
Hold on.
What about him?
He's Norwegian.
So, why is that anti?
You don't like him, you said.
Did you not hear what I just said?
He was top scorer twice, and it's boring because they're too good.
No, it's more that he is that good that I still think that with KDB still being at the height of his powers, Foden is getting into his absolute prime if he doesn't translate
not
the
in the
England.
Euros, but
Yeah. If he doesn't translate the Euros into his regular season, then you're looking good. Like I just think City are just that good. Unfortunately, still, like I think Arsenal's Kai Havertz, being now back to being good false nine, it's looking good, but it's not Haaland. Do you get what I mean? Like they really need that one world beater striker to, like, you know, it's gonna sound crazy, but like Victor Osimhen is exactly who they need. And if he's on the outs with Napoli, why is Chelsea gonna be the side that gets him? It makes no sense to me when they've signed like 49 players this summer. Like just Arsenal need to go all in on a world-class striker to finally, like, let's be honest. Do you believe that Giroud was the last amazing striker that they had?
Kai Havertz scores again.
I mean, sure. But do you think Kai Havertz is Van Persie? Do you think Kai Havertz is Adebayor, this player, that like.
Adebayor. Oh my god.
Hey, oh, relax, relax, relax. Okay, I know Arsenal fans are not going to enjoy me saying that, but Adebayor scored goals for fun.
Adebayor.
Okay.
All the great Arsenal strikers, Van Persie, Adebayor. You're just mentioning people that left them in shambles as well. Just putting the dagger into Arsenal fans' heart with that. Van Persie and Adebayor, get out of here with that. Van Persie was amazing to be fair,
No,
but
yeah, no, but like that's what I
Adebayor, get
mean.
out of
Like
here.
you need to have that sort of level of a striker to win the Prem. Even hell, when Jamie
Adebayor.
Vardy, do you get what I mean? Like even Jamie Vardy, the year they won the Prem, he was fucking amazing. Like you
Yeah,
need to have that. If Jesus can do it, if Kai Havertz can do it, then I'm not so opposed to Arsenal winning the league. But unfortunately, City's just got the squad, man, and they're making it dirtier and dirtier. Like as someone who actually watches La Liga, Savinho is a huge signing for them. I don't think people understand just how good he is.
Semenyo, yeah. Yeah, it hasn't really been
So
talked about either, yeah.
so it's just they can't keep getting away with this. I hope FFP strikes the hammer on them and then they're finally. But
Gone.
I'm sorry. I don't. I still think Arsenal are going to come second again. Sadly,
Slightly more trivia here. How many league titles does Adebayor have?
0, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, according to Wikipedia at least, it's 0.
Yeah, because he's
Despite
failed
playing
to win it at
for
every club. He
Arsenal,
lost it
City, Real
to
Madrid.
and
Not good
the
enough.
Istanbul teams.
Monaco.
Yeah, sadly.
Tottenham, of course, he didn't win a trophy there, of course.
Nah, but he's
Spurs.
still you're taking Harry Kane didn't win trophies. He's
Yeah,
still a
yeah,
top goal
yeah.
scorer.
But doesn't win trophies. Not even at Bayern.
He's gonna win
Awful.
stuff this
Not
year.
even with England either.
Onward.
Sorry, England fans.
So, but yeah, I mean, I want Arsenal to win. Good luck.
Yeah. We both think they will win this match at least, so they'll be decent in terms of the start of the season at least.
Yes.
So we'll see what happens. For what it's worth, I'm going to go with Arsenal again. I did last season. It was really close, even though people didn't really expect it to be close or didn't really think it was close because Man City sort of just won every single game towards the end of the season there. But yeah, I think Arsenal have the chance to do it, especially if they get, I think, even a midfielder as well. Like they have Rice and Odegaard, but the final third guy there, whether it's Jorginho or Partey, not so sure about that. I think Mikel Merino in would be a huge plus for them as well in that position. And then striker, Havertz is actually pretty good. Was really good last season, towards the end of the season at least. Gabi Jesus is actually a decent striker as well. I do agree with you though. I think they should have like a proper like main guy number 9. Not someone like Adebayor, but someone better probably. But yeah, I'm just going to back them again because, yeah, City now, I just keep saying it every year. They can't just keep getting away with this and winning every single season, but I guess they can because they are just that good. Everton against Brighton, your favorite team. Everton, of course, against Brighton, which is an interesting fixture because we've seen this fixture go both ways. We've seen Brighton beat Everton not too long ago. We've seen Everton just demolish Brighton 5-1 2 seasons ago as well, I think it was. So yeah, I've gone with 1-1 in this game. I just couldn't pick a winner here. Everton at home, I feel like Everton are a really good team. But I do also feel like Brighton have a lot of untapped potential now that they have a new manager and De Zerbi is finally gone. So a lot to talk about there, both with Everton, your favorite team, and Brighton. What do you think about this fixture, and what do you think about both teams for the season? Because I think both teams are kind of like top 10-ish potentially, but could also go further down the table as well. But what do you think about this game and these two teams?
I mean, I think the most annoying thing about Everton right now is the obvious financial problems that they
Yeah.
have, and I also just don't think Dyche is the like I'm sorry, but I just don't think Dyche is the one, I think he is very limited in many ways, but I also think that maybe it is due to the squad that he has because we have looked very good. We just weren't finishing our chances and stuff like that. But I don't know. I feel like we need to aim younger and have someone with a more clear vision of what their brand of football is. Because like sometimes with Daesh, it's rock and roll. We're winning comfortably 3-0, and then other times it's the complete bullshit smash and grab. I don't want one or the other. I just want some consistency in regards to that. So I still think that I don't think Everton's going to get relegated. I think again we're going to be fine. But I think Brighton's future looks a little brighter because I think the talent is there. They're obviously always bringing in someone uh, new. They're selling, Unda for like 35 mil euros and all this type of stuff too. Like they're just a very well run football club at the end of the day. I think that's the difference between us and Brighton in the first place. They're run very well.
Yeah.
I mean, De Serbi not so much towards the end. Like I'm surprised that they stuck with them as long as they did. Um, but they're a very well organized sort of club. Everton behind the scenes is still in complete disarray. We're still trying to sell off majority stakes and all this type of stuff too. So I think it it pains for me to say, but I think Brighton are going to finish above us. I do, however, have enough belief in the team that they'll be able to rescue a draw, maybe even win. I'm hoping for a win, and Calvert-Lewin, shushes the fans and the Brighton fans because obviously a lot of Evertonians aren't happy that he hasn't signed a new contract, and also that he somehow apparently turned down 150K at Newcastle, which is crazy to me. Like I would have 100% said yes to that as just like, yes, you're going to play backup to Isak, but yes, you're also playing for Newcastle with serious money and look much better than we are. Like, it seems a bit odd that he was trying to stay and try and fleece the club into making him essential. But I think that's also a reason why this game is going to be really important. He's looked good in the preseason as well. So I think we might be seeing a DCL show. Cheeky little brace to cap things off.
Interesting. He's also a player that hasn't really been talked about that much in terms of FPL. I've seen a couple people mention him a little bit, but he's not really an option for most people. But yeah, he could actually be a decent player, especially for Game Week 1 as well. Yeah, it's interesting. With the Newcastle point, I don't really understand from Newcastle's point of view the fact that they have Isak and Wilson. It doesn't really make sense for me for them to use 150k per week to have another striker. I don't really understand that, but that's the Premier League sometimes. Aston Villa as well, just get midfielder after midfielder after midfielder. I don't really know how they're going to play every single one of them, but yeah, that just happens sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's an interesting game. 1-1. I just couldn't choose between them, really. Yeah, that's going to be a pretty interesting game to watch for sure. Speaking of Newcastle, we have Newcastle against Southampton, and we are in agreement for the first time, and that is 3-0 win for Newcastle against Southampton. Newly promoted Southampton haven't really looked too interesting in terms of their transfers and stuff either. They did get the main man, Ben Burton Diaz, who was actually pretty good for Sheffield United last season. They've also gotten Sugawara at right wing back or right back, who's actually a pretty fun and offensive player as well from the Eredivisie. So they have some new signings, but in general, I feel like their squad is just not good enough to stay up probably, and especially away against Newcastle, which is always a tough fixture. St. James's Park, Anthony Gordon in all his glory at home, at least. It's going to be a tough task, so 3-0 seems like a pretty simple prediction, and we've both gone for it, so it seems like we are in agreement there. So what do you see from this game, and who do you see scoring the goals from Newcastle? That's probably a dumb question, but I'll ask it anyway.
I mean, obviously, Mr. Isak himself been pretty good in preseason. If Jacob Murphy gets to play, I think he'll score as well. He's been in some crazy good form lately. Yeah. I also think it's Anthony Gordon show, so I think a goal a piece. We'll have 3 different goal scorers. Anyone who has Newcastle defense will be happy, me included, because I technically have 4 players from Newcastle. If Gueye ends up going to Newcastle. So yeah, I'm actually banking on it. Newcastle have really good fixtures, and I think this is as good as it gets. So I think they're going to win comfortably.
Yep. Fair enough. Let's move on to Nottingham Forest against Bournemouth. We have quite a different result here. I have gone with a 2-0 Bournemouth win. I just have a lot of faith in Andoni Iraola. I don't really have too much faith in Nottingham Forest. I feel like they are one of the potential relegation candidates. But yeah, it will be interesting to see that game. Nottingham Forest at home, at least, so they have that going for them. I can't remember if they were really good or really bad at home. I feel like one was the case last season, Nottingham Forest, that they sort of trended towards one of those directions, but can't really remember. But I do maybe I should take into account the fact that Solanke just got sold. Maybe that's going to be a reason why Bournemouth can't really get the result here. But you still have gone with 2 Bournemouth goals in this game and 2-2. I just feel like Bournemouth won't concede to Nottingham Forest, but they do have some good players. They have Chris Wood. They have Gibbs White, obviously, who's really, really good. But yeah, I'm just going with Bournemouth. I feel.
Oh, okay, relax. Okay, what? You mentioned everyone except the Swedish player. Why is that?
Elanga.
Yeah.
He didn't even play in the final preseason game. So.
Yeah.
Hey, you didn't mention Oscar Bob earlier either with Man City. Savino's going to be great. Oh, he's not going to play. Oscar Bob's going to play. But anyways, Semenyo as well. I love Semenyo from Bournemouth. I feel like he could be a really good player, 5.5 midfielder as well. But yeah, I go 2-0 Bournemouth. You go on 2-2 Nottingham Forest. I assume you think Elanga will score twice and get a draw in that match.
I just think that both teams, I think Bournemouth are less kamikaze, but Nottingham Forest super kamikaze. Like go crazy forward, go crazy back. So I think they'll get like a famous draw here. And people will be pissed off about that because they feel that winning at home against Bournemouth is a must. So, but I think it's just going to be rock and roll football. I think that match is going to be super entertaining. I would have said probably a Bournemouth win when Solanke was still there, but because I knew the news going in before the predictions and stuff, that yeah, for me it seems like a huge blow for them.
Yeah,
obviously, is a huge blow.
He was their best player last season, so that's going to be a blow. And especially since Enes Unal is also out injured for the start of the season. He was actually pretty good last season when he got to play. So I think he will be good eventually for Bournemouth, but he's not going to be available for this fixture. But yeah, hoping Semenyo could show some of his worth in this game. He was listed as a forward last season. He can play as a striker, but he's most likely going to play on the wing. Usually anyway for Bournemouth. So they also have that Ederson guy, I think, from Sheffield United. I feel like every single like young Sheffield United striker went to the Premier League now. I think Osula went to Newcastle and Ederson went to Bournemouth, if I'm not mistaken. I think both of them were with Sheffield United last season. And then Brentford and Diaz, obviously, which we mentioned as well for Southampton. So yeah, pretty fun to see, considering they kind of struggled to score goals last season, Sheffield United. But yeah, 2-2 for you in that game, 2-0 for Bournemouth in that game for me. Speaking of 2-2, that's the result I have between West Ham and Aston Villa. Probably a little bit due to the fact that I'm a West Ham fan. Just hoping that West Ham can do something here. But I think, like realistically, I think West Ham will have a good season, but it's still early doors with Julian Lopetegui. Still a lot of new players coming in, a lot of great and fantastic and interesting signings. I think West Ham have a pretty interesting season coming up in this upcoming campaign. But for this first game, maybe we'll struggle. West Ham haven't really looked the best in preseason, have had a couple hiccups and stuff with the new direction that they have with Moyes now gone and Lopetegui coming in. But at the same time, there's Paqueta, there's Bowen, there's Kudus, there's Fulkrug, there's Antonio, there's Somerville. There's so many talents there at West Ham now that I feel like a draw at home to Aston Villa could be attainable. But I could also see the prediction that you've gone with, 2-1 Aston Villa. Seems kind of interesting. What's also interesting here is the fact that Ollie Watkins, who was Aston Villa's best player last season, he hasn't played a single minute of preseason. I think he's going to start this game still, but that's a bit of a question mark for Aston Villa. But you go with a 2-1 Aston Villa win here, away from home. What do you think about this game and also these teams for this upcoming season as well? Because I think these two teams are also kind of similar-ish and interesting to watch this upcoming season.
I think West Ham will, if Lopetegui can get the team going, and especially with the squad, I really like a lot of the signings he did this summer. So for me, I think West Ham are going to be on the bounce. I think Aston Villa, I'll be so impressed if they can do better than Newcastle did. Because for me, that's my biggest concern with West Ham, with Aston Villa, especially because will they be able to? Because am I wrong in thinking the new Champions League format is this year as well?
Yeah, league
So
play in the opening stages.
yeah, so it's 5 matches from home, five away, all this craziness that
Yeah,
comes with that. Like, I don't know if they'll have the squad. I mean, I think they have the squad depth considering they have 8 million midfielders. Like, I don't
yeah,
understand why they bought Onana, but sure. Like, they have a lot of players and stuff like that, but I don't know if they can hack it. Like, is Ollie Watkins as sick as we want him to be? If so, then yes, maybe. They'll be able to, just about qualify in the Champions League and just about, do well as they did in the league. But I think the biggest thing about um, Aston Villa last year, besides the um, Conference League, they didn't really have that many distractions. They could just focus on the league. And now that they're actually at that point where they're a Champions League side, being a Champions League side on its own means that you should be one of the teams trying to fight for this cup, that cup, doing well in the league, and all this type of stuff. It's also a target on you. So if they can handle the pressure, amazing, and kudos to them. But if they can't, kudos to West Ham because then West Ham wins. So I
hopefully.
think I think my prediction of 2-1 is more to say it wouldn't surprise me if West Ham win. It wouldn't surprise me if Aston Villa win. I just don't think a draw is going to be the case. I think it's going to be either one of those teams will win.
Okay.
But I think it's got to be Aston Villa simply because of everything that's going on. They've got the chemistry going, a lot of the same players and stuff like that, same manager, same everything. In terms of preparation, it's going to be a lot easier. Whilst with West Ham, it's still too early doors. I agree with you. I think they're going to have a good season overall, but I think I'll be very impressed if they can get it to gel straight off the bat.
Yep. Let's move on to the first Sunday fixture, and that is between Brentford and Crystal Palace. Again, two teams that I think are kind of interesting, and two teams that I think will finish higher in the table this season than they did last season. Brentford had a lot of
Mhm.
injuries. They had the ban for Ivan Toney. Just a lot of issues with Brentford last season in general. I feel like now with Rico Henry back, all the defenders back, Tony back from the start of the season. They just signed Fabio Carvalho as well, who I think is a pretty neat and tidy player as well. I think that's going to help them, but I do think Crystal Palace will have even more of a jump up from last season, which obviously was half Roy Hodgson, half Glasner, but under Glasner they looked absolutely amazing. So I think it's a pretty even game. I could also see the 2-0 result here, and I'm kind of hoping for it because I think I'm going to have some Palace defensive players. Henderson is most likely going to be my goalkeeper, and I might go with Munoz as well. So I'm hoping that they keep a clean sheet, but I feel like Brentford have enough firepower to score as well. So I've gone with 2-1 for Crystal Palace. You're going with 2-0 Crystal Palace, so you have a lot of faith in Crystal Palace as well, I assume. Or maybe you don't really have that much faith in Brentford. So which one of those two is it, do you think? Is it more Crystal Palace are really good or Brentford are still really bad?
I think Crystal Palace are very good. I think Brentford have been a bit unlucky, especially with Thiago getting injured. What, 2, 3 months, if I'm
Yeah,
read
I
correctly,
think
it's
so.
something wild like that. And I thought he was awesome Ivan Toney replacement because he's very similar, just taller, essentially. Yeah, I just think the Crystal Palace are gonna have a good season. I think, yes, Olise, who was injured for a lot of it and anyways, or major parts of it. They've done really well in getting Ismail Assar and Daichi Kamada, two awesome, awesome players, and
Yeah,
would have been so awesome if they were able to get Zaha back. But as I spoke to you about it the same day, it came out that yeah, that's not going to happen.
yeah.
So yeah, I like a lot of the things that they've been doing. Um, I feel that there's just been just really clever things happening over there, just generally speaking. I think this could be like the next. It's I'm not going to go as far as to say they're going to reach top four, but it wouldn't surprise me if they come very, very high up there if they
Yeah.
can keep it going. I think Chadi Riyad, Barcelona player and really good defender, La Liga defender, just generally speaking, is also going to add this sort of elevation to the club. And I'm just I just hate that all these clubs that I used to look down on and hate and for various reasons are now doing the things that I wish Everton did from a
Yeah.
very long time ago. So kudos to them, like a lot of people were saying, even during the Zaha days that they'd be relegated and all this type of stuff, and they kept just fighting everyone off with the stick and just showing, no, we're here to stay. And I think this could be a statement year for Crystal Palace.
Yeah, I feel a lot of the same thoughts actually. I think like top four is probably unrealistic for them, but I wouldn't be like ultra surprised. It wouldn't be like Leicester winning the league type of surprise. But I do think they will finish top 10 in the end, even though there are a lot of good teams in the Premier League. But they just looked so good under Glasner last season. And like you said, Chadi Riyad in the defense. Olise was injured for a lot of the last season as well, even though he played a lot towards the end when Glasner and Cole were really good. Mateta is obviously he's probably not going to be ready for this game because he was playing at the Olympics like 3 days ago. He looked really good in the Olympics as well. He just seems like a proper super good striker. I think he's going to be an important asset in this season as well, even though he has 7.5 now, which is quite a lot more than he used to be. I still think he is a viable asset because I think he's a really good player. But yeah, I think they replaced Olise pretty well, Chadi Riyad, like you said, and also the fact that Cheick Doucouré, who's another really, really good underrated player, he was out injured for the part of the season where Glasner and co did really, really well with Crystal Palace. So him coming back as well, and Adam Wharton playing the whole season. They just have a lot of good players. Munoz as well playing the whole season. They just have a really good team. Hopefully for their sake, they get to keep Mark Gahey, but we'll see what happens with that. He's, as of right now, he's still a Crystal Palace player and he's still going to play in this first match most likely. So that'll be interesting to see for sure. Yeah, let's move on to El Clasico between Chelsea and Man City. I've gone pretty high scoring here with the 2-4 result, 4-2 win for Man City against Chelsea. I just feel like this is a game full of goals. I think 4-2 was actually the result that happened in the preseason as well, if I'm not mistaken, between these two teams. I have a lot of faith in Oscar Bob, my fellow Norwegian man, and Haaland obviously as well. I think those two guys are really, really good. Man City, obviously, fantastic team. And Chelsea, kind of like with West Ham, I think they have a lot of fun players. I think they have a fun manager. But I think it's still like early doors. They've made a lot of changes. Not so sure about their backline. They don't really have like a set defensive team as of yet. The goalkeeper is new. If it's Jurgensen or if it's Sanchez, the goalkeeper is bad. The centre backs, I mean, they have Colwell, and then they have like a bunch of other people: Baliashile, Fofana, Disasi, Tosin, another bio. Now all of a sudden, they just have a lot of different players, and yeah, I think early doors they're going to be fun to watch. They're going to be exciting offensively, so I think they will score some goals. I think Man City also are a team that could concede a couple goals as well this season. But I think it's going to be a 4-2 win, which is a pretty bold prediction because it's usually doesn't really happen like that. But you go with a more conservative, but still Man City win with 2-1 for Man City. So what do you think about Chelsea? Do you think they have a chance this season? Do you think they have what it takes to do better than last season? Considering they did finish the season pretty well under Pochettino, and then they made another manager change because they are Chelsea and they can't help themselves. But what do you reckon with Chelsea? We talked about Man City a little bit earlier. So what do you think with Chelsea's season this season?
I think Chelsea's season should look a lot better. I think the over reliance of Cole Palmer won't be as necessary, considering the fact that Nkunku fucking finally is back. And I'm a huge, like, I would have taken him at Barca. Like, that's how much I love this guy. Like, I think he's such a criminally underrated player. He's so much fun to watch, and he is just a joy to behold. I mean, like, I know even though he didn't score it, but the bicycle kick that he did in
Yeah.
that training match against Inter has made the rounds. Like, he is just an enjoyable player to watch. Like, I think honestly, like for me, he's sort of like how Conte is to a lot of people who love the Premier League. Like, I think he's just that lovable. He's not like a douchebag or anything like that. He's just very talented and so happens to be an offensive player, like in the sense that a lot of strikers, they chat a lot, they taunt a lot. He's not that type of guy. Yes, I mean, if you consider his balloon thing a taunt, but that's just a special celebration that he's always done, sort of thing. So I really like Nkunku, and I think him alone is like a new signing for them, right? Because he
Yeah,
barely played, and when he did, it was one of the people who benefited from it because he scored twice whilst I had him in my team,
yeah,
once against Liverpool and once against like Wolves or something random like that. It was some Christmas time game or like New Year's sort of game.
yeah,
And yeah, so like I think a lot of things are looking good. I don't think they need to sign 5 million players to get to where they need to be. Um, if they somehow get Oshiman in, then I definitely think they're gonna get top four. Like that's how much belief I have in just their attack alone. But of course, things need to gel. Maresca needs to really get his foot down and all this type of stuff. I think whilst I'm more confident with Slot because I think the squad is there because the team harmony is there. We're
yeah,
still trying to figure out whether Enzo Fernandez is a racist or not, and all this type of stuff. Like the team is just in complete disarray, regardless of them. Do personally thinking they did pretty well to finish the season last year. I
yeah.
still think there's some kinks that they need to iron out, but it wouldn't surprise me if they finished 6, 7.
Yeah.
I still don't think they have what it takes to be top four. But if Nkunku and Palmer are firing in all cylinders, they can win the league.
Yeah.
That's kidding.
You also not win the league, yeah. But you did mention Wolves, and they did get Wolves' best player in Pedro Nech as well, Pedro
Yeah,
Neto.
yeah.
So he's going to be really interesting to watch. Kind of a big, I guess, middle finger to Mudryk because he sort of just is the same position and it's probably better than him. A shame for Mudryk. I think he can still be a really good player.
At Arsenal.
Somewhere else, yeah, at Arsenal maybe. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see Chelsea. I think they're going to be whooped by Man City in the first game, but yeah, we've seen surprising things like last season with the 4-4 game as well happen. Wouldn't be too surprised to see that happening, but I think Man City have more firepower to win that game.
Yeah.
Speaking of firepower, we have the final game between Leicester and Spurs, and I've gone with a 4-1 Spurs win, which is kind of surprising even to me. I don't really have that much faith in Spurs, but I think like I figured out like today and the last few days that Leicester aren't really all that. We do have some sort of like affinity to Leicester because they won the league. They have all those players like Vardy and DD. Like we know a lot of these players from the Premier League before. Pereira. They have a lot of these players that we remember, but I'm just not sold on them, especially defensively as well. Like they have Woodfors is decent, and then they have Okoli or Vestergaard. Vestergaard was really terrible last time he was in the Premier League. They don't really have a striker currently. Vardy is like slightly injured-ish. Daka had to go off injured last game. They gotten Deckard over Reed and Buonanotte now, so they have some nice extra Premier League level players. Mavididi I think is really good. Fatavu as well on the other wing is pretty good as well. They have some decent players, but I don't know. There's just something about Leicester and Steve Cooper as well. I'm not the biggest fan of him as a manager. They lost Maresca, obviously. They lost Dewsbury Hall from last season. It just feels a bit iffy for me. So, yeah, I think Spurs will actually score a lot of goals against them. I think Ange Postecoglou and co will start the season really good again, like they did last season. So I'm going with 4-1 Spurs, maybe some Solanke magic as well. We'll see. You go with 3-1, so it's pretty similar. I've gone a bit more overboard with 4-1. But yeah, what do you think about this game between Spurs and Leicester? And what do you think about Solanke and how he fits into Spurs as well?
I think Solanke is one of those sort of striker that needs chances created for him. Who better to have than like potentially Lucas Barrival if he gets
Yeah,
to continue playing because he's very good at these sort of through balls and crosses. Kulusevski, who obviously is amazing at that. You got Brennan Johnson, who's good at it. You got Pedro Porro, who's good at it. You have James Goddamn Madison, who will probably get to start against Leicester and score in that game. So it's going to be a really interesting time. And I think, look, 60 odd million for Solanke is an overpay that I've seen in a long while. Okay. Because that is a lot for a guy who's virtually just had a purple patch of a season. Because
Oof,
that's
big
like,
words.
I I think Solanke is gonna keep up the form, but and I think he'll do it in a team that will create chances for him left and right. But yeah, I still don't think Solanke is amazing. Sorry. But I still think he will be a better outlet for them than the inconsistent but brilliant Richarlison. I mean, I thought Richarlison did more than enough towards the tailor end of the season, but injury issues and stuff came in the way, and I guess they're a bit too. Yeah, they needed a little bit more dependency there, which is fair enough. I felt like when Richarlison didn't get it hitting and all this type of stuff, they were kind of screwed. Playing Son there sort of worked, but yeah, I think Son is best used in left wing. I don't think Solanke will ever take a penalty while Son is still there,
Yeah,
because yeah, no chance. But I also think, like you said previously, Leicester's one of those clubs that everyone gives a lot of credit for, but they're also, um, I, yeah, without Maresca, the guy who actually got them there in the first place, I think, and I also am not sold on Steve Cooper at all. Leicester fans aren't sold on him either. Like, who's meant to be sold on him then in that regards? Postecoglou, I think, will walk over Leicester, unfortunately.
yeah. And I think Solanke as well took a pen and missed it last season, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was one of those games. I think it was the double game week actually that they had, where he
Where,
missed against Sheffield United or something.
yeah,
So yeah, like you,
because
I think Son is going to be on pens, and Spurs don't really get any pens anyway, so not that it matters. I remember last season we were talking: is it going to be Son? Is it going to be Madison? Is it going to be Richarlison? And we didn't really find out until super late in the season because they don't really get pens, which was the case at Bournemouth as well. They didn't really get pens either. And when Solanke got the chance, he missed it actually. So yeah, Son's going to be on pens most likely, but I think Solanke is going to be good for them. They get like a proper number 9. Richarlison is more like a hybrid sort of striker winger type of player.
yeah,
I think like a more proper number 9 like they had in Harry Kane is going to be doing wonders for them. But I do agree with you, it's quite the massive overpay, but I guess that's what you have to pay for strikers nowadays. It's not quite Julian Alvarez level, but Alvarez obviously is younger and more versatile and better, quite frankly. So but yeah, that's it basically for the results or the predictions of the results for the first week of Premier League, the first weekend of Premier League action, which is going to be really nice to see. All those matches will be really fun to watch for sure. Let's move on to the fixture ticker, which is also coming back for the season in this podcast, which is where we have the next 6 fixtures for each and every team in the Premier League and see how they stack up against each other. So this is ranked by fixture difficulty rating, where we actually have Fulham up top with some pretty easy matches. Man United away at first is not the easiest, but it's still a game where they can get something, like we just discussed, 2-2 or 2-1. There's going to be some points there. But then Leicester at home and Ipswich away, and then West Ham at home as well is a pretty decent match as well early on in the season. They are top, and at the bottom we find Wolves, who have some kind of difficult fixtures. Arsenal away in the first game, Chelsea at home, Nottingham Forest away isn't too bad, then Newcastle at home, and then Aston Villa away and Liverpool at home as well. Some tough fixtures for Wolves, which is kind of a shame because there are quite a few players from Wolves that would be interesting if they had some nice fixtures. Also should be noted, Man City are pretty far down in the table, same with Arsenal as well. Both those teams, the number 1 and number 2 teams from last year, have some tricky fixtures. They do have some nice fixtures as well. Man City, especially with the Ipswich at home fixture in Game Week 2. But then after that, they have some tough fixtures. So maybe I'll see if Haaland keeps scoring hat tricks every single game. I'm most likely going to keep him. But if he hasn't really produced in the first 2 game weeks, I can see a lot of people moving from Haaland to someone like Watkins, who will be then back and ready to play. You can see Aston Villa pretty high up in the fixture ticker, and they still have 2 of their tougher fixtures in the first 2 fixtures. So Game Week 3 onwards, I feel like a lot of people could go from Haaland to Watkins potentially if Haaland hasn't performed at that moment in time. But we'll see what happens with Holland. Ipswich, at home should be a really good captaincy choice when it comes to Holland. But if he fails there, I could see a mass exodus of Holland because he needs to score against Ipswich most likely twice to be worth that price tag of 15 million. But those are just some random thoughts. What strikes you when you look at this fixture ticker in terms of the teams and who they play against in the first opening 6 game weeks of the season?
Yeah, I think it's funny that you see Fulham there because I think everyone has R9 in their squad. A lot of people do. It's sort of the third outlying. Like, I don't feel like it's that much of a guess to say you have Haaland, Isak, and then blank, right? So either you have a Chris Wood, you have Nice, or you have Calvert-Lewin, or you have some, João Pedro or something like that, right? But I totally understand the appeal. I see why people have gone with Smith Rowe as well. I see why people have gone with Andreas Pereira. Fulham do have really nice fixtures to start things off, so maybe I should be a bit more considerate of having one of those players and falling out. But I think they're great. I think Southampton is a massive avoid, regardless of how good their fixtures look.
Yeah,
I don't even think they look good, to be honest.
I gotta get my charger, so just keep talking.
Yeah, I think they're sort of like the whipping boys of the sort of top 3 that, or top 3 who will most likely be the bottom 3 of the championship coming to the Prem. So the newly promoted teams, if you will. I think Arsenal is a bit of a trap, especially defensively. I don't love the away matches that they have, Aston Villa, Tottenham, and City, but I do love the 3 home games that they have, which is Wolves. Brighton can be a bit hit and miss, but Leicester, I think they're going to absolutely destroy as well. So I'd be a bit wary of their defensively. Offensively, I think it's fine to go with a risk and see what they can do, because even against City, they were able to get draws and stuff.
And clean sheets last season.
Yeah. I think Chelsea's one seems a bit harsh, considering, yes, City at home sucks, but Wolves away it used to be hard, but I think this Wolves side is there for the taking. I think Crystal Palace at home could be a fun game for them. I think Bournemouth's I think West Ham, that could be a cheeky draw, I'd suggest. Probably maybe even a win for West Ham there. And then Brighton at home. Like, I see why people rate it kind of hard, but you don't have them defensively. You have a lot of them offensively, and some of these teams that they're going to be facing are defensively kind of crap. So I think Chelsea are a little bit harshly rated. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I can see that as well. None of the fixtures are really, like, apart from City, obviously, none of the fixtures are really like worrying that much. It's just like Wolves away, West Ham away. It's kind of tough-ish, and then Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, and Brighton are all decent teams on their day. So there are no like Nottingham Forest, Ipswich, Southampton type of fixtures here. But they do have some nice fixtures. And I think those fixtures come in like game week 7 and 8 as well. I think they have great fixtures post these first 6 as well, if I'm not mistaken. So there's definitely some room for some Chelsea players. And for the long haul, I feel like they're going to be really, really good in FPL. And there's a reason why a lot of people have Nkunku. Let me just check quickly now, actually, the fixtures that they have. Yeah, they have Nottingham Forest in game week 7 as well. So, but after that, they get some tougher fixtures. But the first 7 game weeks for them, looking really good, honestly. And yeah, they probably should be higher in the table, but I don't know. It's just my suggestions for which teams are tough to play against as well. But we can discuss that at a later time as well, I guess, which teams deserve which color here. So obviously, for anyone that doesn't know, it's pretty obvious, obviously, but dark blue is the easiest, light blue is the second easiest, gray is like the middle, light red is second hardest, and dark red is the hardest fixture in this table. So yeah, just on the topic of that, let's just quickly, any of the colors, are there any colors you think are misplaced? Any teams that you think deserves a harsher color or more difficult fixture rating or someone that deserves an easier fixture rating? Anything that strikes you from looking at this table? This is very niche FPL type discussion, but yeah.
I mean, I'm just looking based on like game week 1 and who people are facing and stuff like that. Like, I think, regularly speaking, pretty fair to say. Yeah, I don't feel.
Aston Villa at home I have as a grey fixture. I thought about having that as like a light red fixture because they did come top 4 last season, but I don't know. That's one of the things.
I think
Chelsea at home as well, Newcastle at home, Man United at home. All those are grey fixtures. Yeah.
I think generally speaking, you did a pretty good job with this, so I don't have that big of a disagreement with anything. Maybe West Ham, like simply because they're such a question mark.
Yeah.
But like on paper, it's a gray, so it makes sense.
Yeah. West Ham at home is light blue, I think. So, yeah, Crystal Palace in the second game week. West Ham at home, light blue. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the difficulty rating system. Liverpool as well, obviously, number 2 in this table. That's a huge talking point. Salah is really popular. Jota has become really popular now as well. Trent is really popular. Kwanzaa as well has actually gotten some boosts lately because it seems like he might start overall. I don't really understand
Stop talking about.
I just don't know about Konate and what he has to do to be a starter. Weapon. I don't know what he has to do to be a consistent starter for Liverpool, but
stop being injured.
Maybe. But yeah, anything else that strikes what's the story I'm looking for? That stands out, I guess, in this table. Obviously, you have to sort of fragment it a little bit. You could go with someone that has really good first 2 fixtures. Looking at Spurs, for example, they have Leicester away and Everton at home. Should be decent fixtures on paper, even though it's Everton. I know, Kevin. But you could always go with like a Spurs player and then selling them in game week 3, for example. But I don't know if you should book in transfers either. But Solanke for the first 2 game weeks and then Watkins for the remainder after that could be a potential idea, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we get into the fun parts and picking a team out?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. We have a blank canvas here, a lot of grayed out players. This is just like a auto pick selection where I've removed all the players again. And I figured we could go through it together and select a squad, both of us, in conjunction, basically, with 1 pick each, back and forth. Do you want to do a snake draft, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Like, do you want to do 2 and 2 picks, or do you want to do? Let's just do a snake draft. I'll do the first pick, and that's going to be Haaland. For me, I think he is pretty essential to have, so I'm going to pick him. You get to pick twice now. 2 new players for this team.
Isak.
Yeah, I think he is actually more nailed than Haaland for me as well. But yeah, Isak is there. Second one.
I'm going to piss you off already.
Okay.
I just think he's that essential. I think Mo Salah, man.
Yeah, you're not going to piss me off. I have both of them currently, so both Haaland and Salah. I have all 3 of them currently.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, spent a lot of money already, so I got to be mindful of that, obviously. I think, yeah, obviously, the defender that we're all going to have is Guardiola. I think it's just get him in there. He seems like he's super nailed. He's super attacking, plays for Man City. He should definitely be 6.5 or even 7 potentially. But I sort of get it as well. Like he's new to the Premier League. Who knows? But yeah, so Guardiola is one of my picks. And then the other pick that I'm going to have, anyone else? I got to think about my squad. Yeah, let's just fill in all the gaps with all the positions. I think Henderson is the best goalkeeper to have. So I'm going to pick him. It seems like Sam Johnson is on his way out. So I think Henderson is pretty secure as the number 1 goalkeeper. So it's a pretty boring pick, picking a goalkeeper this high, but I figure I should just pick the guy that I like. So Henderson gets the goalkeeper nod. And it's up to you to pick 2 more players. But remember, again, don't really have too much money, so you can't really get Saka now because we're not going to have money left for anyone else, most likely. So,
yep.
But I know who you're going to pick anyway, so.
It's one blue and one former blue, so that should tell you who they are.
Former blue.
Yes.
Former Chelsea.
Former Everton.
Former Everton. Amadou Onana, let's go. No.
Anthony Gordon.
Anthony Gordon, of course. That makes sense.
Yes.
Picking the midfield spots, that's clever. Yeah, I think those two are really good players as well to have. And I'm also going to pick a defender, or a midfielder, I'm sorry. And that's going to be my guy, Oscar Bob. Okay. I just have a lot of faith in him going into the season. I know Savinho is amazing, like you said. Bob has been terrific this preseason. And I think he's going to start at least the first two games. Chelsea away, like I said, 4 goals I have for Man City in that game. I think Bob could be one of the goal scorers there, like it was in the friendly against Chelsea. And then Ipswich at home in the second game. I feel like for 5 million, it's just a risk worth taking, basically. He could be the starting right winger for most of the season as well, if everything goes super well. But yeah, Bob is in there as well. And then do I want to go with my third striker? Potentially. Nah, I'm going to leave that up to you, I guess. I actually think these are the 2 players I figured I could go for. Both of them start with Mun. That's Muniz, who I've thought about for striker, but I'm going to go with Munoz in defense. Double Crystal Palace, I know, kind of risky, but they did keep clean sheets against like Liverpool and who else? Like several really good teams. Well, Man United aren't the best team, but they kept a lot of good clean sheets towards the end of the last season, and I do have faith in the defensively, and I have faith in Munoz offensively as well, so I'm going to pick him on top of having Bob. So you're next. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players left for 29.5 million budget, so that's basically 5 million per player, pretty much. But there are going to be, the backup goalkeeper is going to be 4.0, obviously. We're going to have some 4.0 defenders most likely, so could potentially get one more decent-ish player, but the rest are going to be pretty cut price.
Sure. I'm going to say it because screw you, just to irritate you. Chris Wood.
Fair enough.
But I also just think that Nottingham Forest matches are wood proof in that regards.
Yeah, because you got Wood right now, right?
Yes, but I also swapped him to Calvert-Lewin. I
Okay,
got a
so
pretty Wood.
Okay.
It's a mixture between the two. I think realistically it should be Woodinho.
Fair enough. So you're not that excited, but
no, I am.
Yeah.
I just kind of feel like I have to have Calvert-Lewin because he's Everton. So that's sort of been my thing, which is pretty stupid. In regards to the defense, okay, what can we play around with that gives us?
I'm just gonna plot in 4.0 defender or goalkeeper already, just to make it more obvious how much money we have left. So
How much money do I have?
19.5 million left on 4 players, basically. So that's again around 5 million per player ish. 5, 5, 5, 4.5.
I think.
Or 5.5 and 4.0 and 4.5. 4.5.
Okay, well then, either one of Livramento or Hall. I can't pick, so I'll let you decide.
Yeah, I think currently with Trippier still in the squad, I think it's better to go with Hall. I think he's going to be left back
Unless
more
Dan Burn
likely.
plays.
Huh?
Unless Dan Burn gets to randomly.
Yeah, they do have
Play-
Lloyd Kelly there now as well, so I don't know. But I think currently as it stands with Trippier still at the club, I think Hall is more likely to play than Livramento, but as soon as Trippier leaves for some club, Livramento would be the obvious pick, obviously. Which is the word I really like to use. Yeah, so Wood and Hall for you. 2 more picks for me before you finish it off with the final pick. I'll give you some, let's see what you have left for the final defender. But Valentin Barco, I think, is the best 4.0 defender to have currently, with Estupinian out injured, and he's taking corners. He's looking super offensive in in preseason, so I'm going to pick him there. We have 11 million left, which means 6 million and 5 million, or 4.5 and 6.5 million. Do I have 6.5 actually? Yeah, I think we might actually do that. Oh, hang on. This is not a pick. I'm just going to see how much money I have. 4.5 left. Okay. So I can actually pick a 6.5 midfielder. And I'm going to pick my guy. Kudus.
Okay.
Not many people have mentioned him, but I think he's really good. I think the firepower that West Ham have now offensively, just have a lot of faith in him. 6.5 seems like a decent price for him. Yeah, I'm going to go with Kudus. I think he's amazing. Really fun to watch. He's also someone that could benefit a lot from the fouls won and shots on target bonus point additions now this season. So, yeah, I think he has a really good season coming up, especially seeing as it is his second season and he's now acclimatized to the league and plays for a really good team with a new exciting manager. So you have 4.5 left for a final defender. Who do you want to pick for 4.5, Kent?
I think the one that we, a lot of people have picked as a popular pick, and I think deserves it, as your concept.
Fair enough. Very dependable player. Not sure if he's going to play right back or center back. It seems like Diego Carlos is going to go to Fulham now, so
yeah,
maybe he'll be a center back. I don't really know what's happening with Tyrone Mings either, if he's going to be back. But of course, Aston Villa has some really good fixtures, or have some decent fixtures at least from game week 3 onwards. So Konsa could be a really nice pick to have there. And nice to have someone dependable when you have like Hall, who's not completely sure of playing, and Barkle, who eventually will be a rotation risk as well. It's nice to have someone dependable who we know is going to play, who we know plays for a good team, and who could get some clean sheet points and even some attacking returns potentially as well. So this is basically the team that we've picked together. I think it looks actually really, really good. Personally, I would just do Wood to Muniz, and then that's pretty much it. Probably get Eze in for Kudus, and then do something else with the defense. Maybe downgrade one of the 4.5 defenders to a 4.0 defender, Woodfash or Ben Johnson, for example. That's like the first few things that would strike me with this team. But I think this just proves that you can get a really strong team, even though you have Salah and Haaland, because I think this team on paper looks really, really good. Several good players, both offensively and defensively. So, yeah, pretty happy with this joint drafts in general. If you want my personal drafts, it's going to come up on Thursday. I'm going to have my final selection video as well, which is going to be in the form of a weekly wildcard draft, which is my signature series on this channel, or our signature series, I should say, even though it's me presenting that video. But yeah. When it comes to your team, Kevin, any plans on revealing it to the world? Or are you going to keep it secret until game week 1? What's your plan there?
I think I don't know. We should do it like as before the deadline, like right before the deadline. If someone wants to copy us, we can reveal it then. Until then, I'll be honest with you, my team will change a lot. Like I will. Like, especially if we hear any random rumors and stuff like that. So yeah. So I don't think it'd be fair to reveal anything. But what I can reveal already, ding, 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 that there's 7 players in this team that I currently have.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 out of these players.
Well then, fair enough.
Not too bad.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that is pretty much it. Anything else I can think of? Not really. And as always, with the FPL Scope podcast, I always leave the final word for Kevin to basically cuss out someone, because that's usually what you do. So let's see what you have in store for us today, Kevin.
You know what? I'm not going to cuss anyone out. I'm going to actually wish all fantasy Premier League managers the best of luck with game week 1. It's going to be a interesting watch, especially if some of you went without Haaland or some of you went without Salah, and both of them Hall. Like, it's going to cause absolute pandemonium, and that'll be interesting to see. So best of luck. I honestly think that this is going to go either way. I am so jealous of people who have Jota, and I'm quite jealous of people who have Son, which is making me question my own team a little bit. Maybe I should downgrade someone and
Salah?
upgrade someone. No, 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 no,
No.
no, 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 no,
Jota
no,
on
no,
top
no.
of Salah.
I need Salah to do well just so our third member, Chemo, can get all the shit in the world because he's Egyptian and he currently doesn't have Salah.
Yeah.
He will have Salah, and I know that he's lying. So yeah, but he likes to gamble, so maybe he doesn't. And if Salah gets a hat trick, he'll be the first person to know.
Fair enough.
So you know what? Fuck Chemo. Yeah, that was kidding.
And with that, thank you for watching or listening, and goodbye.